Hi, today I'm going to be talking about the cultural practices about banned books and less diversity in readings. Just some book statistics and info. A website by the name of ADL in 2022 mentions that in America, the practices that we see in society would be the issues of challenging or banning books, mainly because they include people of color or include things that are considered controversial to those outside of colored race. For example, such books would include messages about truthful history, racism, religious viewpoints, people of color, or even mental health. According to an article from the Pulitzer Center in 2023, made statements that showed during the first 6 months of 2022 to 2023 banned exactly 1,400 books, just about, and that there are 9 in 10 that were challenged or attempted to be censored. Another source taken from Education Week stated the perspectives that Americans usually have to say would be that parents' cause of censoring children from certain books would mainly be because they want to refrain from showing ideas that are considered explicit or unsuitable for that age group. There are even issues with children's books that are ethnically diverse, like Lupita Nyong'o's Salve or the Berenstain Bears as included, and books such as The Kite Runner or To Kill a Mockingbird, or even any other book, again, that deals with sexual equality. What is being overlooked is the fact that banning crucial diverse books shows the continued racial inequality, the avoidance of realistic historical events, or angered display of sexual orientational beliefs. With that being said, for French-speaking countries, there are many of whose cultures differ from ours. One of the people I met during our talk abroad conversation, I met Sophie, and she lives in Martinique, France, and spoke about how her culture included French literature and historical French books. Her cultural practices that were from her perspective, opposed to us in America, included less banned books, but in fact more diverse books actually that are being brought to life. There are also topics mentally that was being brought aware in France as well, such as she mentioned a book that was written by people in Islam. She never mentioned exactly what that book was, but that was just an example to include. The perspectives that she spoke of would be that since France is considered the city of lights, as she puts it, it is revolved around different writings and talks that books are mostly served for one purpose and one purpose alone. Some positive looks of what I've learned from Sophie would be that her country has moral focus on legends and stories when literature is brought to the light. She also loves reading spiritual books and novels, as she's mentioned. Another friend named Sibyl. She lives in Togo, which is located in West Africa, and she spoke about the different variations of books that were located there, which involved fiction, drama, Nigerian books, and even Anglophone books. The practices that she had mentioned were the fact that there have been books that were censored, but they haven't been banned or challenged. Her perspectives would be that just because a lot more diversity was being shown in general, the only reason for censoring books would be due to explicit language, but not so much a use for them being banned. That would probably go for what we usually have in America, except more lenient, if that makes any sense. Some things that I've learned about Sibyl and her country would relate to the issues that she's mentioned about her government system. She stated that her system had a 30% level of negativity, and also there was an issue of women's rights not being heavily noticed, and that was kind of being casted to the side. On a positive note, I must mention that Sibyl enjoyed mountains and beaches that were located in Togo, as she displayed in our conversations. She also mentioned that she loved certain movies, romance movies, and we've even connected on certain movies that are viewed in America, such as The Good Doctor, the typical medical shows. Going from Sibyl, my last friend that I talked with, his name is Rodney Augustine. So even though Rodney is Haitian and has lived in Haiti, which is near the middle country, he is now located in the Dominican Republic. So, mentioned in our conversation, he stated an important author and poet named Oswald Duran, who was the first Haitian Creole poet that wrote poems about love and women as viewed here. So he was quite historical. I'm not sure how to pronounce the poem itself, but that is just what's being displayed here. And I believe he was famous for it. Famous historically, I must say. Speaking of historical artifacts, there was a great Haitian hero named Jean Jacques, who was taught in school specifically for children's education. The practices within his culture would be a smaller number of banned books, except a book called Bouki et Malice, which shouldn't be viewed by children. This would mostly be because of a particular character's action and display of misbehavior or just bad actions in general, which might seem a little bit taboo. I'm not entirely sure if it would be banned in America. Based on what Rodney explained, it might be slightly challenged in America, but maybe not so much completely banned, if that makes any sense. But with that in mind, Rodney mentioned that the cause of parents who would see this type of book would cause the parents to shield their children from that. And again, mentioning historical events would just be important to note that children needed to learn about history and historical figures such as Jean Jacques. Some cool things that I learned about Rodney would be that he enjoys Haitian food and music. He included music such as rap, compa, and rabode. It was really interesting. He also mentioned in his recording that although he wasn't able to communicate as well in English wise, I very much did understand what he was going at, and it was a very decent conversation. And it was a very decent conversation with all of the people I talked with. So that is the end of my presentation, and I hope that you can learn something from the people that I've presented and the cultures that I've presented about book reading, book diversity, and the like.